Lacrosse community. My name is Ryan Burns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. We're so fortunate today to be joined by Scott Tinning. He's one of the founders of One Lacrosse. He's been around the sport for a very long time and gotten to play at the highest level in the National Lacrosse League. Scott, we're so excited for you to join our community and share your unique perspective. Before I give too much away, though, can you share a little bit about how you found lacrosse in the first place?
Oh, okay. Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for having me. I'm from Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. My parents actually never played lacrosse. My dad had the ambition, saw a video, and wanted to put my older brother into it. And at that time, my older brother was 7, and he's 4 years older than me. So I basically had a stick in my hand since I was 3 years old. Grew up around the rinks and got into something called the paperweight division here. I'm not too sure if that's what it's called in the States, but here paperweight. So it's 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. So and since then I've had a stick in my hand, played rep all the way up on All-Star into my junior A days. I started my junior A days when I was 16 in Kitchener. I played 5 years at junior. I played 4 in Kitchener, and my final year I had the opportunity to go chase a national championship with the Brampton Excelsiors. So I was traded from Kitchener. I competed against Orangeville in the Ontario and Canadian Championship. Sadly, lost that one. Nick Rose and Adam Jones, that are NLL players, were on that squad, and it was a competitive series. And that was probably, like we'll probably talk about in a little bit, my most probably memorable moments as a lacrosse player. But yeah, so I've had a stick in my hand forever, and I live, breathe. I love field lacrosse. Box kind of is my main, like what I grew up around, what I know probably more about than anything. But I do know the field game, and I love the field game, and that's kind of a little bit my lacrosse as quick as possible for you.
Well, Scott, thanks for sharing a little bit about your background and how you've gotten in and been able to compete at extremely high levels. Do you remember your first coach, or is there a coach for you that sticks out that has really made an impact in your life?
Yeah, there's a couple different ones. Some even in lacrosse. I'd say even some. I played university football as well. So I've had coaches at like the highest level. I'd say one of my youth ones, his name is Ken Stubing, a Kitchener firefighter. So he really impacted that whole coming together, a team, and like being around the family, around girls and guys sports. It's all about being a unit and having that camaraderie and growth with one another. And he instilled that very early at like an 8, 9 years old, that these are going to be the guys that you go to battle with, and these are the ones that are going to be there for you. And that's a big thing why I think lacrosse is so important, why it's such a great game, is I still today have friends I started when I was like 6 years old, and they're like my best friends, and I'm 33 now, right? So that's why I love this game more than anything. And I've played rep basketball, I've played rep hockey at some of the highest levels, and football as well. But lacrosse, there's something a little bit different, and I don't know if I can truly explain it. I can kind of give you just from my point of view, but there's just something magical about it that yeah. And like the creator's game, I have a lot of knowledge in other areas of that make this game so important to me. Not just the game of lacrosse in general. It's like the history of it and things like that are very important to me. So
it's neat to be able to hear all the different parts that go into a love and ultimately what you do. And we appreciate you sharing that with us, Scott. You've had a journey that just goes up and down throughout life, and you're in a place now that's pretty unique also. But if you look back in your lacrosse experience, do you have one pinnacle moment, or there are a couple moments that stick out to you?
I'd say actually a big part when I got drafted to the NLL, but it was after that first year, I was told I was kind of debating, do I go back to Ontario to play in the senior loop, or do I go out west to play in the senior loop on the West Coast? Because those are the two big divisions in Canada. So I was debating, and at that time, I'll be honest with you, I guess my mom and I were on a little rocky road at that time in life. I was in school, 20, young, and not always making the best decisions, I guess you'd say. But no, and that was kind of, you want to know what? I'm going to go. And I went to Burnaby, British Columbia, and I kind of got the opportunity that the coach said, like, You want to know this is your time. You're going to go to this team and you're going to have the ball a lot. And hopefully this team can be built like around you at that time. And it was kind of like I'm more taking on a bigger role that I've had. Like I was a captain of the Kitchener Braves, but at that time I was kind of playing lacrosse, like pro lacrosse, and it was, I got to make that next step. And that was kind of just, that was like, took that advice. And that summer I probably had one of the best, I won the rookie of the year, the WLA that year. And yeah, I had that. I wish I could have kept progressing more. I got hit with the injury bug, but that first year was truly on a personal level, it was very important to me. So
Wow, it sounds like they set the tone of, hey, here's a challenge, this is what we need you to do, and then you rose to the occasion and saw a lot of success from it.
yeah, exactly.
That's pretty neat. And you mentioned you'd been captain in the past, you'd had other leadership roles, but this was something a little bit different. Can you share with us what your definition is of leadership, or what leadership looks like to you?
See, it's such a good question. In a way, it doesn't have to be the loudest guy in the room. It doesn't have to be the guy that is the best player on the team. It's the guy that people look to, that can count on for being there on throughout the full game. When you're riding the highs and lows of the game of lacrosse, it's very mentally challenging. And the guy that can keep the bench and like under control and speak just so maturely and to the point, and keep guys kind of like cool-minded and like cool-headed. And that it's not really, it's more just the actions that when you get looked at, people want to be like, you want to know what? That's what I want to strive to be. The way he conducts himself in the room, the way he speaks, and that like literally every single person looks like this is like, he's our leader and he's the one that he conducts himself at the most professional level all the time. He's sometimes usually the toughest guy, like toughest mentally on the team, which sometimes it's weird. It's shown in different ways. And I've had different captains that show it in different ways, but it's the ones that can draw in the room and that have that respect through their words and their encouragements. Sometimes asshole comments, but like literally you make you think like, you want to know what? He's challenging me, but you want to know what? And I appreciate that. It's not like you look at him like I'm angry with that guy ever. No, he's a guy that you look with respect constantly, and who will conduct himself. Yeah, so the professionalism is really kind of what I consider like a leader, and to me personally, yeah.
I like what you're saying, the professionalism of just, because for me, that's just always doing your best, always doing what's expected and showing up time and time again, no matter what adversity we're going through or what craziness is going on, because they're stable. They're a rock. They're someone that everyone's looking to and saying, hey, maybe we've been here before, maybe we haven't, but we can overcome as long as we keep our heads about us. We prepared our entire lives for this. Now let's just execute. Can you share a story about whether it was your leadership or one of the other leaders you spoke about, where maybe you guys were going through a challenge and you had to rise and overcome some of the craziness of the game or of life?
There's a couple of different ones that come in. Actually, a big thing for me, it has to do with actually playing with my brother, to be honest with you. When I came in when I was 16, my brother was the captain of the Braves in his last year. So I was 16, and my brother, I would say like he's a skillful player, but the thing is, it's like with his heart and like constantly being able to like knowing you're getting out challenged in certain areas, but rising to the occasion. If it has to do with, scoring an important goal, picking up an important loose ball, you want to know what, maybe not being the toughest guy on the team, but having to answer to that fight, that challenge. And I think more of my life and at that time was playing my junior career and getting my toes in the water with these older, like technically men, when I feel like I'm a young boy at that time. And it was just, there was a couple games during that where I looked at my brother and like what he did in that game was like, okay, that's something I want to strive to, because as much as I don't always like my brother, I always respect my brother and I love my brother and what he brought to the table, like in the game of lacrosse that I witnessed, and how he could control the room, and people like still come up to me and have constant things to say about my brother, about how he was like an excellent captain, and in certain games he was willing to go to the dirty areas that a lot of people aren't willing to do that. It's the dirty areas win games, and if no one really understands the dirty areas in box lacrosse, it's setting those hard picks up and down, constantly moving your feet, getting stuck in the face, and moving forward and pushing forward. And there's certain things in that year when I like watching my brother and do certain things I admired, and I look to try to maybe like achieve and accomplish like that.
Oh, that's so big. The dirty area or just the grittiness of a game is things that people don't necessarily like to do. You're not usually going to get a lot of credit for it either, and it can be painful. I mean, getting those GBs can be some of the worst times to get hit or whatever it is, or just having to push a face off forward or doing so many different things. But it changes the momentum of a game. And if you can recognize that and you're willing to sell out for your teammates, I think that's when the team goes, man, he really cares. I trust him.
That's the biggest thing. I think that extra play that's like, holy shit, excuse me. He went up and down and then got that late ground ball to get that possession back. That is the thing. I'm glad you stung on that point there, because that's a really good point.
And I think that's why you respect your brother so much. And that's why you're bringing this up as what leadership is being a little bit more gritty than someone else. And I think that's a neat transition to what you're up to now, because like you said, you were on a good trajectory, rookie of the year, then injury bug hits. Lacrosse changes from being a player, but now you're still a part of the game. Can you share with the group what you're up to now?
Yeah. So once that kind of happened, I got the injury bug. I finished fire school when I was about 24, 25 actually. And then I came back and I was very in shape. And I transferred roles because I always played in Kitchener. I had to play offense, but I feel like my deep role long term that I think would have kept me in the league a little bit longer, after the injury stuff, was if I would have turned transition player. But so I did. So long story short, as I turned transition, I was playing defense on a guy named Lewis Ratcliffe, well-established player throughout the league. He's quite older now, but played with the Washington, the Stealth, and played in Vancouver as well. And I was guarding him, and long story, he went underneath, and I went to kind of go up top side and went over toward the ACL, and it turned into nothing but recovery, nothing but kind of some constant issues. But you want to know what that was? And the thing is, I rehab well, but it came down to it. Do I want to? Because lacrosse, as much as we all wish we could make a full living on it, it kind of came into a life choice. And I was either going to go firefighting or try to keep going lacrosse. And the firefighting said, if I get injured again, I won't be able to get hired on. So at that time, fire was really my main goal. But as that progressed and came back and I rehabbed, I got into some fire sales. Long story short, kind of got in with a couple different various lacrosse companies, but then realized, you want to know what? Why not kind of start off a clothing, it started off kind of as a clothing, and we were teamed up with another kind of team in the States. I'm going to keep that not public. And long story, we just started building, and then COVID hit, and we were we have someone in Pakistan who makes a glove. And we're all lacrosse players with the company. It's one Lax, and there's about 5 individuals at the time, and we're all like-minded individuals. And we were all you want to know what? Let's create a glove. So we shipped some various gloves to our manufacturer. Long story short is we created the glove for one Lax. And after that progressed, and me playing in the league and a couple other guys with the company, knowing NLL guys, we were able to get the glove on their hands and get some honest feedback. And right as that happened, they were we enjoy the glove. And once we heard that, we were okay, let's approach the NLL and see how that goes. And you want to know what? Most people start kind of more on the ground floor, and we started fairly early, but we got into equipment, and then and then we kind of went to the top with just kind of how stuff progressed and how we moved forward. And now we're there. You have to maintain, and we're trying to bring a new style. We're the first company out there to do full graphic gloves. So any image you'd want to put, so like if there's a, your mascot or certain things that may be meaningful to the team, we're really trying to like showcase that like you only get to see a helmet, jersey, and these are the most important things you have. So why not try to build around this and then move into like other equipment? So that's kind of, if you see our brand right now, we're only focused kind of in apparel, jerseys, shorts, gloves. And right now we have our hands and we're making a youth glove, as well as we're going to transfer into shafts and arm guards. So that's kind of the progression of what we're going. And right now we are still so early. So we're trying to get our name out there in the States. So I'm constantly contacting, and because box lacrosse is still new, but being on ESPN now, it's huge. And I feel it's already been growing drastically down in the States right now. And I just think it can only go up from here. And with Canada, it was growing a little more complacent. And then it's just like people have different views. I don't know. It could be, I think, maybe run a little bit differently. I'm not going to say it's run like poorly, but there's certain changes I feel in the minor systems in Canada that like we need to get the numbers back to like what they were going to, instead of now, obviously with COVID and everything and it being so strict up here, the numbers are, I didn't think they could deplete anymore, but now I just heard registration is, because they're going to be opening everything up here. I heard registrations through it's up tenfold here. So I'm quite happy about that. And that's what we want, right? That's totally what we want. And because this is the game that I want to spread, and it's been undervalued would be the best way to put it, to be totally honest with you. It's a game that I think it needs to be introduced to more people to really get the true like love and understanding of it.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much that goes into a sport, and the passion that you have, Scott, is just tremendous. Hearing the love of the games, the stories that you have, staying involved with it, finding a way to get through all of it and stay involved and want the game to be successful is what we all want. Can you share a little bit about some of the skills you've gained from the sport that ultimately you're implementing in your business to stay successful and move so quickly to a really high echelon?
Relationships, to be honest with you. It started with, obviously, like I have the education, but the relationships was key. And like, if you make the good relationships, you can definitely grow. And especially with, that is really what I picked up from lacrosse, is people that I know that have went to battle with me, or the people that behind the door, what are going to be there in the long run for you. And that's what I've taken mainly from lacrosse, as much as the love and the camaraderie and the bonding and the being able to communication and being able to constantly converse and take criticism. A lot of people are unable to take criticism. And that is a big key thing. It's like, always think criticism doesn't have to be criticism. It can be constructive criticism, but just take all criticism as constructive criticism, and you're not going to really have an issue, and you're going to grow. And I feel that's what, like, lacrosse is such a demanding at times, and like the heat, anything, you can go from the battles, the slashing, the hitting, the picking, the heat, and like terrible heat constantly in like box lacrosse. It causes you to have to go into that mental state that troubled areas where you got to fight through those. And I think that's what builds you kind of as a person, to understand the stuff that's going to get thrown at you in life, the roadblocks that constantly happen, because it's not always smooth sailing in the route you take. And but I think lacrosse has helped me on that for resiliency and stuff like that.
Oh, that's big, because like you said, life is not going to be smooth. We're going to face our adversity. Tough times in a game are just like tough times in life, whether it's injuries from a game resulting to life and then having to battle through it and ultimately make that choice of where should you be going next. And I think the relationships are such a big thing, because those people ultimately become mentors, peers, business partners, and we need to be able to communicate effectively with them and understand, hey, this is where I want to go. Do you think I'm on the right path, or do I need to adjust? And then with the right conversations and constructive criticism, being able to empathize, all of a sudden we can have a partnership and we can be successful together, because there's plenty of opportunities out there for all of us. It's just a matter of being willing to take your licks when you need to, be resilient, be tough in the gritty times, and move forward.
Exactly.
Now, Scott, I know we're closing up on time here, so I'd love to hear, do you have any last stories or anything you can share on lacrosse or leadership with our community?
No, it's more, I just like speak up, constantly ask questions, want to get better. Don't, these are more just things that I kind of say to kind of feel that can help you grow as a player. It's always challenge yourself. Don't pick up the stick because you're on the way to practice. Pick up the stick, go hit the wall, pick up the stick because you want to pick up a stick. Don't make lacrosse a chore, make it a love, and that's going to make it, or make it something you truly like, because that's going to, if you want to get to that next level. If it's just going to be a hobby and just a thing you want to do, that's totally fine. But if you're going to play at the next level and want to get to that next level, it's those extra things. It's the exercise, it's the healthy diet, it's the concentrate. In this day and age anymore, lacrosse used to be just talent, especially up here. Like you could have maybe a bad body frame, or it was a stereotype that like some guys maybe like to have too much fun, and it's not like that anymore. It isn't like that anymore. And if you could see the NCAA and everything, the PLL, it is dominant athletes now, and you got to take care of your body. It's just having these anymore doesn't really it doesn't really just help. And so it's constantly taking care of yourself and wanting to be better, pushing to be better. Don't just pick up your stick on game day. Pick it up on the days when no one's watching. Those are what's going to make you a better player.
Oh, that integrity aspect, doing things when no one's watching, and the idea of how you do some things, how you do everything. So if your diet's not good, that means other parts of your life aren't going to be good. If you're not doing the extra workouts, that means you're not going to be executing in different areas. And for you to bring that up and saying, hey, the standards are now really high if you want to play at the highest level. It's doable, but you have to be willing to sacrifice and get through it. And ultimately, nothing good is easy. And that's why it takes so much time and takes work. But if we have support, if we have passion, it makes it so doable. And Scott, I'm so grateful that we were able to connect, because we know your passion's here. And I'm so excited to see what you guys continue to do with One Lax, because it's just phenomenal. Like you said, there's not enough done with the gloves right now. We can share so much about our story, our journey, our heritage with that. And you guys are doing that. So thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.